Okay, so we got the Sealey Siegen ball end hex keys now in imperial. Now I did a bit of a boo-boo because I've actually gone and got the standard along ball end in imperial, whereas the Nielsen ones to go with it are extra long. So it's kind of like me and Ricky Gervais. It's not quite as long, but he'll get the job done anyway. But it's just not as good. Anyway, yeah. So I've got to get some for the garage anyway. So I'll probably rectify that. Probably keep these ones in the garage, and put the bigger ones in my main toolbox in my workshop alongside a pair of these when that time comes. Like I say, they're not that much difference in size really. If you look at the bigger ones, you've got about an inch and a half difference in size. I don't know about the smaller ones till we get them out. Obviously, Siegen is a Sealey offshoot. There. Siegen Tools, Sealey Group, Bury St Edmunds. So Siegen is Sealey, and these are obviously come from exactly the same place originally as the Nielsen ones, as we see here. So in my personal opinion, I'd save yourself a couple of pounds on the metric set and pick up the Nielsen extra long metric, because it'll save you a few pounds, and with them few pounds that you've saved over, you can actually buy yourself a Sealey set if you can find them for around about the same price as the Nielsen, because they're usually 2 to 3 times as much for the same thing. So we can get these out. I've no doubt they'll be greasy again, like the last ones were. Oh yeah, you can just feel the grease there on my hand. So again, exactly the same now. Exactly the same setup there. You can see there's just no print on that one, where they've just chose to print the Siegen logo on there. I don't know whether the Sealey Siegen brand is just something where they import in some tools from different places and put a different brand name on it, and then sell them out to so they don't lose out too much money to all these cheaper imported tools and the other companies that are importing them and selling them. So they just made their own, like a secondary brand selling imported stuff, or the cheap or perhaps a bit cheaper price stuff to compete with those others. As you can see, they're exactly the same as the Nielsen ones that we reviewed, except for the fact that they're imperial. Like I said, the bigger ones are about an inch and a half in difference in length between the long and the extra long. Just remember to look for the extra long or the long, depending on which ones you do want to buy between the two, but it doesn't really matter. I'm not going to be using imperial all that much. It's a bit stiff to get out, this one. That's what they all say. Small one. again, the finish on these I expect to be exactly the same. The ball end. Yeah, that's the smallest, the 1/16th, the smallest imperial. Now if we can get the smallest metric, I don't want to mix them up. We can get the 1.5mm. So we can just see the difference between the lengths. So again, it's just about 2 centimeters in length difference between the long and the extra long Allen keys. So that's one way I'm not going to mix them up, isn't it? Without having to measure them, if I do. This one back in there, the 1/16th. Okay, we can get this big ones out. This is absolutely swimming now in grease all over my fingers. Look at that, my word, greasy bugger. I've not long just polished this table as well, so we're going to have to do it again now. Greasy. Again, can we see the, put it up there, we can kind of see the difference. It's a bit bigger with the bigger Allen keys, I say about 1.5 inches, 2 inches. About 1.5 inches or 2 inches in difference there. Again, probably it's not going to be that much difference in a working scenario. You're probably going to have enough room there to work with the regular long one. It's probably not going to be that big a deal. I don't want to, yeah, just leave them out for a minute. Now I don't want to get it running too long of a video, as the other one happened to be quite a long video on just a set of Allen keys. I don't know, I managed to get it to around 20 odd minutes or so, but there you go. It did. So the case is exactly the same as the other one, so you can hang it on a hook if you want, or a nail, or a screw. I just use one of them magnetic at the minute, one of the magnetic strips for you to hold your tools, and I just along the bottom there where all the Allen keys are sticking out there, and I just clunk a magnet, hold it there with magnetism, and that seems to work fine on that. Now these ones are very, very greasy, as you can see. Like I said before, that's to if you haven't watched the last video, that's obviously to aid corrosion while it's in the packaging. And then plastic packaging, sometimes they sweat and condensation, they condense and all that business, and yet moisture build up in there, and without a bit of grease on them, you don't know how long they're going to be in stock in a shop or in a market stall or wherever to be sold, and you know, bit of corrosion might set in every now and again. So that's what the oil's for, it's to stop any corrosion. But obviously it gets on your hands and it's a pain in the arse when you first open them up. But generally I think I picked these ones up for around the same price as the Nielsen extra long ones. Obviously the Nielsen ones and the Siegen ones in the extra long are exactly the same. It's so obvious they come from the same places originally. But the Nielsen ones are about £3.70, £3.50, you know, that kind of price range, between £3 and £4 basically. And the Sealey Siegen ones, probably because they're a Sealey brand, you know, they're about, usually even the basic long instead of the extra long, these basic long ones are usually more expensive in metric or imperial than the exact same Allen key, if you want to say the metric ones, so they are the exact same, then they're usually twice as expensive as them, and you've even got more, you know, material on there. So when it comes to buying the imperial, then you've not really got much choice but the Sealey Siegen, because Nielsen don't do it. Tecton are again exactly the same as we covered before in the video, but I think they're even more money. So again, you'd be even more stupid to pick those. I'd personally buy a metric set of Nielsen and for the value for money, and then the imperial set Siegen, because over time in use in your toolbox and using it in oily fingers and all sorts, that Siegen print there is probably going to wear off anyway, just like the prints will over time of the individual sizes on there. So this probably more so, because it's probably where your thumb's going to be greasy and holding it around and wiping around the actual area, so it'll wear off. Kind of like your if you got a mouse on your computer, you'll know you got any print on there around by where you put your palm, they all wear off. So you probably won't see that. It'll probably be bare, just like this one will anyway. In the end, so when it comes to your metric set, if you're interested in these Allen keys, I'd pick up the Nielsen ones. If you look down my videos, you'll see the review of these Nielsen extra long ball ends, and all the details of them, you know, will be there, the part number, etc, etc. Although we do live in an age of Google and search engines on websites, so if you go to, I think it's Nielsen's site is Canon Tools, and canontools.co, either canontools.com or canontools.co.uk, and they've obviously got a search engine on there, so you could obviously either, you know, just put the extra long ball end and Allen keys and see what, or hex keys, and see what comes up. But the part number for them is on the video of mine. And that's that, 'cause I don't want the video to go on and on and on too much about the hex keys. We'll have a close up look at the bigger Siegen Imperial one. Very greasy, this one. You know, it's quite clear that they're, I think that was the extra long Nielsen metric one, wasn't it? Should have picked up the wrong one, but you take a look at the Sealey one now, you quite clearly see it's the same thing, just in a different size, an imperial size. And yeah, this is definitely the Siegen one, as it's swimming in grease. See, it's exactly the same finishing. The only difference being that this one's got like the the slightly off centre, like it's been the bar's been faced off or something at some point before being hardened with something or other, and it's got slightly raised off centre middle, which obviously doesn't mean a diddly squat here for what it's used for. But the Nielsen and the Nielsen metric one's fairly flat, so that doesn't have it. In fact, the Nielsen one looks like it might have been linished or ground or something prior to being finished and hardened. But you know, that's the only difference on the between the two. They quite obviously come from the same place, so it's up to you if you want to spend extra and have 2 packets with Siegen on, and that's, or two yellow packets or whatever, then that's up to you. If they, I think they are yellow again, I'm not sure, they might be red or some other colour to distinguish from each other, but you never know. Personally, nothing wrong with the Nielsen ones in this case, because they're exactly the same. And I'll leave that choice to you, but that's what the Siegen, or the Sealey Siegen, long in this case, ball end hex keys, not extra long. And there's not too much extra on the back. Just saying that they're manufactured from heat treated and hardened chrome vanadium steel with a blackened finish. Keys range in length from 75mm to 180mm, and in size from 1/16 to 3/8. Ball end allows key drive fixing at up to 30 inches. Let's say 30 inches, or no, 30 degrees I was going to say. Can't see it through the focus on the camera. There you go. Ball end allows key to drive fixing at up to 30 degrees. Contents 1/16, 5/64, 1/8, 5/32, 3/16, 7/32, 1/4, 5/16, 3/8. Supplied in easy access case with hanging tag for safe storage and quick key selection. So there you go. So they basically say just there you have to go to Sealey, www.sealey.co.uk. See, we all know Sealey is a fairly good, well respectable brand in the UK. It's one of the better brands usually, like Draper's expert range, things like that, and Draper's range. So I'd assume Siegen is a similar, perhaps, to Draper's Red Line range or something like that, or their main line. Now, those Amtech, I don't know if you saw the video, but the video is up there. The Amtech stubby polished chrome vanadium spanners, or wrenches in America. Well, they're actually exactly the same as well as the Sealey Siegen stubby metric wrenches. They also do an imperial set as well, which the Amtech ones don't. So that's kind of made me feel even better about those spanners, that even if they have imported them in from the same place, everything's the same. The finish on the screwdrivers, apart from the fact they say Siegen on them instead of Amtech, and the fact that the casing is exactly the same. The rack, what the spanners come stored in, you know, just points again, similar here, to the fact that they've obviously been imported from the same place. And I've obviously saved myself an extra between £5 and £8 on the cost of them by picking up the Amtech ones. but again, that you know, if they put their trust into a certain company, that the tools are going to be good enough for them, because they're not going to put absolute rubbish in there because it's going to tarnish their reputation as being good, you know, sellers or importers of tools for you. If they're going to put something that's poor in there, then eventually it's going to start tarnishing their reputation. So I kind of feel better about that for those Amtech spanners. But yeah, if you have to look around the tools these days, because a lot of the times you're buying the exact same product. It's not a similar, or you know, it's virtually the same thing. It is exactly the same thing from other manufacturers, and you're paying like 2 or 3 times as much for the same thing. It's you know, it's silly.